All right, so today we're doing a quick start tutorial about SimplePractice. Let's imagine for a moment you have a client, you're gonna see them in an hour, and you just signed up for SimplePractice and you need to see them. This is the perfect video for you. It's a quick start guide that would allow you to see that person inside of SimplePractice, even if you have them in an hour and you just signed up. You know, some of us get like a new piece of tech and we have the quick start guide. You throw out the big instruction packet, you use the little quick start guide and you get going. That's what this video is gonna be all about. We're not gonna go through all the fluff and frills. We're gonna go through the basics of what you need to see that client that's coming up in an hour. Now, no one's asking me to make this video. I've decided to make it because people ask me about this all the time. And so what are we gonna cover today? Like, no intro, no frills. Let's go ahead and take a look. So we're going to learn, well, that's starting number 2. Here we go. Number 1, setting up practice details, right? We're going to go through that. We're going to learn how to add a client. We're going to learn how to send intake forms. We're going to learn how to schedule sessions and do telehealth. And we're going to do some very, very basic billing basics and setup. Okay. If you can do these things, you'll be well on your way to seeing the client that we have coming up in an hour, even though you just logged in to SimplePractice. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into SimplePractice. Here we are in a test account, and the first thing we want to do is set up our profile information, okay? So the way we're going to do that, well, first, the reason we want to do that is because the documentation that SimplePractice creates, whether it be invoices or claims or things like that, is going to pull from this profile section or this billing, the provider information, the clinic details section. All right, so let me show you what it is and how to do it, but it's important you fill it out, okay? So we're gonna go to settings on the left. Under operations, we're gonna see 3 tabs. The first is profile. We're gonna click that. It's pretty simple, name, date of birth, but fill this out, right? Don't overlook this. Fill this out as much as you can. We got the 2-factor authentication for logging in, and then a profile photo if you have one, okay? But take a few minutes to fill that out. Next, we're gonna go to practice, okay? Or actually, I guess before practice, we have clinical info underneath profile. All right, so we're going to click that. This is important, right? So the specialty, the taxonomy code, NPI, license and degree. Again, fill all this out as much as you can. Really important info that pulls into other places that like, you know, claims and all that. So make sure that's filled out. Notification, we can skip this for now. This is just about the notifications you will receive as a therapist. It has nothing to do with the clients receiving notifications, but so we can skip that. Next are the practice details, all right? So this is important. This is where you'll add the practice name, the practice email, a logo, that kind of thing. The office locations are what we want to know, especially for this appointment. So we can add our main office location if we have it in person or, you know, that kind of a physical space. But we also want to make sure that telehealth, which is the separate section down here, is also active. In this example, it's already turned on, but you would make sure it's turned on and enabled. Okay, you can name it something, right? And it allows you to choose place of service. There's a code for that. It's 02. You'll see that here. Okay, or whatever the code is that applies. You can change that by clicking edit. Okay, and you can change all those details. So whatever you need to do for that, but make sure your telehealth visit is enabled. This will come in handy when we're scheduling the client and we need to see them via telehealth. Okay, so that's really important to make sure that is filled out. Now, if you have a different billing address for whatever reason, you can go ahead and add that detail here. But most of us are going to get by with the locations turned on and making sure that's filled out. All right, these other sections, business files and data export, not important for today's video, right? If you have a team, in this example, we don't have a team, but if you have another therapist you're trying to get set up, you can do that here. It's not enabled in this account, but you'd be able to add a team member underneath Teams and fill out their profile just the same way we're filling out yours as well, okay? So that's Teams. Now, in terms of the profile setup, that's all we need to do, okay? That will be the basics of our profile setup. Now, again, you don't want to overlook that and you don't want to just, you know, not fill it out. So just make sure that's done and we're good to go there. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Next is adding a client, okay? It's going to be really important. The client called you, they want to schedule, we need to see them, okay? So let's go ahead and learn how to add a client into the practice. Make sure I'm recording. Yes, I am. Don't want to record for nothing. Sometimes I film these whole videos and I forgot to push record. All right, but here we are. Let's imagine that we are going to see a client. They're going to come in today at 12. You click the blank spot on the calendar, and we can just, this window comes up, we can push create client, okay? The fly window comes out. You fill this out as much as you can with the info you need, and we would push continue. Let's just pretend that we created David, okay? Now, once we create David in the calendar, he's also a client in the chart, or in the EHR. So we can scroll over to clients, and we will see that David is here as well. So now he's a client inside of your EHR, but we created it on the calendar. You can create a client another way as well. You can create it by clicking the plus icon up here, create client. The same window comes out, we fill out the information, and we move on, and they're there, okay? That is how we add a client, right? That's simple, that's straightforward. All right, what's next? Sending intake forms. This is where some people get a little hung up, a little bit, it can be a little confusing for people. No need to worry, we're gonna fix this for you today and make it easy for you. So most of us probably have an intake packet that we need to send to clients, whether it's one that we have ourselves, or we're gonna use the templates built into SimplePractice, and those forms are gonna live in two sections in the settings, okay? So we're gonna navigate to settings on the left-hand side. We are going to go down to the bottom. It's underneath client care. There's a section called documentation, okay? There are two areas there. There's the template library and shareable documents, all right? Now, let's start in the shareable documents section, okay? Now, once we click that, this is gonna contain all the documents that are shareable, right? Documents you can send to clients through the portal. And they've broken it down into a couple categories. You've got the consent forms. This might be things like informed consent, privacy policy, this kind of thing. Now, there are some defaults here that SimplePractice has, just here, like templates. You can view them by clicking the little eye. You can edit them and make them your own. You can also add new ones. So you just push the new button right here, and we can add, copy and paste our own consent forms if we want. Okay, so that's how we start getting our intake packet into the SimplePractice, either by editing what they have or adding our own. We have a section for uploaded files. So this would be, let's imagine you have a resource or a handout for a client, it's like a flyer or, I don't know, a list of resources that you want them to download and have. You can add that here under the uploaded files section, okay? So we can do that here. Scored measures, some of us want to add GAD7, PHQ-9, this kind of thing. We can have that here. We have intake forms, right? And this is going to be things like release of information. Really, you can add a lot of different things on your intake forms. Like, what are you sending with your packet? All of our packets are a little bit different, right? And then finally, we have demographics and credit card forms. So this would be, there's nothing to modify here, but it allows you to send them the demo form, right? So all their information about name, address, all that stuff, and insurance. So see how that's checked off? Insurance, can you see that? Yeah. Insurance is checked off. So this allows the client to fill all that out on their own, which is better anyway. And then credit card information, right? So, well, I guess we can touch on that now. So if it's not already enabled, if we click enable online payments, you're going to see that this particular test account doesn't have access, but it would allow you to integrate with Stripe, which would then allow you to take payments in SimplePractice. Very easy to do. It's just a couple buttons, a couple verifications. You can do it right from this window, or again, in the billing section as well. But you can send, if you have that checked off, the credit card, it's ready to go, you can send the person a form that allows them to enter their credit card details, okay? Now let's imagine you're just setting this up, you don't have time to integrate with Stripe. That is okay, we can do it later, okay? But you can either do it by going here or by the payment processing section. Now, the important thing to know is that the forms you want the clients to get or have access to, or you want to be able to send, make sure they're checked off. You can uncheck or check, and this kind of thing, right? Now, again, if you want to add new forms, there's little buttons down here to do that, right? And then for some of the other sections like scored measure or intake forms, if we go into template library, you're going to notice that we have an entire library of pre-built forms and templates, okay? So we have the GAD7, the PHQ, we have the PCL5, right, for a scored measure. It's unchecked, which is why you don't see it in the other section. But if we check that off, PCL5, and then go to shareable documents, and we scroll back under scored measures, the PCL5 now shows up as something we can send. All right, so the template library is a place you can go, and when you check these off, they're going to now be shareable for you to share to the client. We have a couple extra sections in this particular template library. We've got progress notes and session notes. So if you're writing a SOAP note or a different kind of form, obviously you're not going to send progress notes to the client, but this gives you the ability to choose that progress note inside of the appointment details, which I'll actually show you in just a little bit. Okay, so we have the template section for notes and things like that. Treatment plan, same kind of thing. You know, we're not going to be sending that to the client right away, so we can work on that a little bit later. I'll do a bonus. I'll show you that too. And then we have other documents, good faith estimate, you know, this kind of thing. The important thing is to make sure you know what's in your intake packet, and then make sure you send that to the client and make sure all of that is checked off here or added here. Once that's there, right, everything that you need in shareable documents is checked off, we then can go into the client's chart. So let's go to David's chart again. Let's just click his name. And we can push share at the top right. Once we click that, all the things that we had checked off are now options that we can check off here. And so we check off what we need to, continue the email, and send it out. David now has the intake packet in their inbox. Okay, so that's how we send an intake packet. That was a very quick high-level overview. There are a little bit of nuanced details and things, but for the sake of getting someone set up and seeing them, that's going to get you there. Okay, so that's how we send intake forms. Now, let's take a look at scheduling sessions and telehealth. And this is where I'll do the little bonus. I'll show you the template for note-taking and what I meant before. Okay, but for now, let's go ahead and schedule a session. So let's say we want to see David, I don't know, today or tomorrow at 12. We can click tomorrow at 12 on the calendar. The flyout window comes up. We're going to imagine we already created David as a client. We're going to click search client. He should pop up. We're going to click that there. And now we can choose the different details, right? What time is it? Where's the office? And that's important, right? We chose, remember in the settings section, we enabled telehealth. Now underneath location, we can select video office, right? Because we enabled that in that setting. If that's not enabled, that won't come up and you won't be able to see David in the telehealth setting. So because we selected it, we're going to make sure we check that off, okay? And I'll show you what that does in just a second. The service, so are we going to see David for 90834, 90837? We select that. I'm going to show you how to edit that in a second. And then the fee, right? So how much is the fee? We can edit that here. And then we're going to go ahead and click save. Now, David is scheduled. Now, what you notice, if we click back in, we have a join video appointment button. We have a share link button. This has become a telehealth visit. So when it's time for you to see David, you click this, you click join video appointment, and you're ready to go, right? David's going to get a reminder and a link, and he's going to be able to click in and see you as well, okay? A couple other things, you can make it recurring by simply clicking that. And whatever you need to do there, you can set it as every Monday at 12 or whatever the time may be. All right. So this is how we schedule sessions and how we see people in telehealth. All right. Let me see what's next before I jump into some of the bonuses. So billing basics, right? So I want to show you a couple things when it comes to billing. So let's imagine for a moment that David's going to be cash pay. Okay. Now again, we want to make sure we enable Stripe so that we can accept the credit card payment. But let's say David's cash pay and the rate is $150. Once this session concludes, there'll be a button that says create invoice and add payment. You can simply click that, follow the few prompts, charge the credit card on file, and you're good to go. Now let's imagine it's not $150 and you're saying, Matt, this keeps defaulting to $150. I want to make sure my 90834, I charge $200. Not to worry. We go into the settings section. We go under services and products. You click services and you'll notice all of your CPT codes. You can add some, you can delete some, and you can edit them. So in 90834, let's click on it. We can change a bunch of details about it, but let's just change the rate to 200. If I click 2 on my keyboard, it does this weird shortcut. I'm not clicking that. Let's imagine it's going to be 200. You would change that here, okay? And we're going to click save. All right, we can go ahead. And then when we go back out to the calendar, every time you choose 90834, it will come up as $200, okay? So you can always change the default settings as well to make things a little bit quicker. All right, now it's saying you forgot to charge David after the session and you're kind of, forgot about it. We can actually go to David's profile and we can charge them that way as well. So underneath the billing section, you'll notice they're broken down by sessions. There'll be invoices that are created automatically. And then you can either click that, add payment, right? You see that at the top, or we can just do add payment here on the right as well. So everything's neatly organized and we can add payments if they're credit card payments. Now, let's imagine David is an insurance client, right? They're seeing you through insurance. Then what we want to do is make sure that David is checked off as an insurance client. Now we can do that when we first sign a client up. So let's just click a blank section and pretend we're adding a new client. We'll click create client. This area here, billing type, make sure insurance is checked off, okay? This will let SimplePractice know that it's an insurance client, and it will prompt you in the insurance section to create a claim, all right? Which I'll show you in just a second. Now, let's say you forgot to do that, oh my gosh, they're cash, but they're using insurance. We can always fix it. Go into the chart. So we'll go to David, click edit right up here, and we're gonna go ahead to billing and insurance. And you can check off self-pay or insurance, whatever the case may be, all right? For right now, let's leave it as insurance. So let's say we saw David and the session is over, and we wanna know how do we submit that claim. The little shield is the insurance button. Once the session is over, that will end up right here in the insurance section. This is a little preview. It allows us to see the code, this kind of thing. We then can go ahead and create the claim by clicking this button here. Right? I won't create these claims here in this account, but if we go to it'll move over to claims once we created it, and it will automatically generate, where did that just go? It will automatically generate a claim like this that we can review and send. Of course, this is a test, so it's got a lot of flags on it, right? It's not a real claim here. But it makes it really simple, and all that info in the insurance claim form is pulled in from the practice details you selected, or the session details, the CPT code, all that, and also the practice details we inputted. Now, before you submit the claim, there's a couple other sections though that we probably should have talked about before insurance, but let's hop in now. So under client billing and insurance, if we click client billing documents, you're going to see a whole bunch of different options down here, checkboxes. Most of this is set to default for a reason, so we can pretty much leave that, okay? But if we go to insurance documents, this is where you're going to be able to make sure your NPI, your organization name, all that is correct, right? You can also add your tax ID here. This is super important. Right, your organization, if you have an MPI2, you add that here. But you can edit a couple things about insurance in this section here. Make sure the info you have that needs to be on claims is all here, but this is kind of where you would do that. And the other thing is you want to make sure your SimplePractice is set up to send claims out. And there's two things to know about this. There is being ready to send claims out, and then there's the electronic fund transfer, okay? So the first thing we want to do is add payers. So whoever you are, this is not the same as being credentialed. I'm assuming you're already credentialed. Let's say you're credentialed with Aetna. What we would do is we could search available payers at the top right, select one, and add it, okay? We can add manually, but you want to basically add the payers that you're credentialed with. And once it's added, like you see in this example, you'll see this thing that says ready to file claims. That means you can use SimplePractice to file the claims, okay? Now, the other thing you want to set up, and we won't do that in this video, it's, again, we can do this later, is make sure we enroll in electronic funds transfer. And in fact, I have an entire video about this kind of billing stuff. I'll leave a link down below in the description. And that's a bit beyond the scope of this video. I'm already going into a little bit of the weeds here, but hopefully that helps if you're taking insurance. Okay, so make sure that is all set up. Now, there was one more bonus I was going to show you before we wrap up, which is the template, the note-taking templates. All right, so let's click David's chart. We're going to see David on the 20th. Let's just pretend that's today. How do we add a note? We click the appointment. We click Add Note. And here we are in the Progress Notes section. Now, if you remember, when we clicked on Settings, let's go back for a second, Settings, and we go into the Documentation tab, and we had Template Library, right? We noticed our Progress Notes section. Everything that's checked off here is what you'll have available to choose from. You can create your own. You can use these templates. You can also kind of customize these templates. There's a lot of options here. But whatever is checked off or added here is what you're going to have access to in the chart. Just wanted to remind you of that. So let's go back to Add Note. And if you notice, we click this drop down, all these different types of notes are available. SOAP note, DAP note. Now again, you can add whatever you want. So make sure you choose the right template you want, and then you can go ahead and fill that out and click Save. Now again, that's a bit beyond the scope of this video, but that's how you would add notes and add templates for those notes as well. Okay? We went through a lot today. I've been talking for 20 minutes, and that would still give you 40 minutes to prepare for your session if they were coming in an hour. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you found it useful. If you want to check out SimplePractice, you can use my link down below. Yeah, that would be great. I hope you learned something. I hope you found it helpful. And at the very least, I hope it empowers you to run a practice that you're really proud of. Okay? I'll see you in the next video.